Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back. And today we're going to be going over save data. And now I know that they've already said that it's been a little bit not as transparent as it needs to be. And I've been doing a lot of runs. Maybe you've seen some community posts of trying to see what I can get away with from doing different runs of chaos in nightmare mode and seeing what I can get away with as far as save data is concerned, seeing what's weighted really highly, what's weighted not so highly, and helping you guys at the end of the day with this video, allowing you to maybe get a better guesstimate of what's going on and what you can get away with. For instance, like look at this Mika deck. It looks pretty nice, 56K. It actually looks real well. It's got triple dupes of the Source of Water with a Divine Epiphany on it, some basic cards. Nothing really got added back from her base kit. This is really nice. So how did this happen right here when you can compare it to something else? 64,000 terabytes, basic cards everywhere, deluge, no Divine Epiphanies, basic blue gear, but it's got the 2 neutral gear bags. So what are we looking at? What are we trying to avoid? And what are the biggest traps when it comes to save data, in my opinion? Now, we always know that Chaos Zero Nightmare is a little RNG out there. And the worst thing that could happen to you is for you to get to near the end of your Chaos run and you go, man, I really have an idea for the save data. It's coming together. How can you try at least to avoid the game from ruining your experience there? So for instance, this Shadow Reload build I put together here, here's a couple of things that I've noticed. Now, the number one thing that I've noticed is that the game benefits and greatly weighs 2 big things. It weighs Divine Epiphanies pretty highly. Duplicates don't seem to have an absolute ton of value, a little bit higher than just having a card in that slot, but they don't seem to have inherently a great deal more value than just having another non-basic card in that card slot. For instance, like Shadow Reloads here, Curses here, you know, any of the other cards that would be unique cards, Vital Attack, don't seem to have like a crazy high weight to them when the game's calculating your deck's terabyte value. Another thing that I did notice is that the quality of your gear does seem to have a substantial effect on what the game is valuing your overall build at. But what I did notice is that having a piece of gear period instead of not having a piece of gear seems to allow you to sometimes wiggle some thresholds about what the game will allow you to keep, if that makes sense to you. That's why you see that this right here, I felt kind of insecure about the game adding in extra base cards, right? I had this dagger throw gone and another dagger throw gone. And I was like, you know what? It's probably going to put 2 dagger throws back in. I would rather have just 1 dagger throw added in and have no accessory than have 2 dagger throws in my deck and have like a blue accessory. Right. And I definitely would rather have, 2 dagger throws and some other basic card, left out of my deck instead of having a legendary here, or have it take a Shadow Reload out, add in both daggers in the touch just so I can have a legendary here. So that's how I kind of went ahead and avoided this there. Now, the other thing that is a giant trap that we'll see here with this version of this Mika deck is this one's pretty nice, right? You can see once again left out an accessory because I was kind of like, I'm not really sure about this. I'm not the biggest fan of leaving it up to the Chaos Zero Nightmare algorithm to figure out how many cards it needs to add back into my deck. It added Deluge back in. I'm pretty sure I removed that, or maybe I forgot, but you can see there's no water arrows. There's no base heals here. We do have 3 Source of Waters, all with the Divine Epiphany blessing on them. We have a purple piece of gear, a yellow piece of gear, and we've missed a piece of gear here as well. And the game said, that's good. That's about 56,000 terabytes of value. If you go through all of my decks on all of my characters, you'll notice outside of the one we're about to go over that I just do not have neutral cards in them. And that's because it was very apparent to me very early on that neutral cards have an obscene weight on them, especially if they're like higher rarity ones, like this gear bag, right? This yellow gear bag has an Epiphany on it, and I duplicated it. If you look at the rest of the deck, though, this deck is absolute garbage. 3 blue pieces of equipment, and then just a bunch of base cards. I think this is the only card that has any Epiphany from her kit in this save data. It's just this garbage finale Blessing of Waves. And funny enough, I accidentally clicked on this and got the finale of a Blessing of Waves during my run, and I removed it from my deck and it added it back in afterwards. So you can see that the gear bags here have an immense weight. And if you go back and look at any of your save data and start thinking about, all right, I've had monster cards, I've bought, rally, gear bag, I've had this stuff in my deck or some other neutral cards. And those decks seem to get messed with way more than any of your other decks. And it's because those cards that are neutral cards have a much higher total weight associated with them point wise. And so when the game tries to bring you under that threshold, it needs to either add a bunch of cards back in, or maybe it'll remove that neutral card from the deck, or in some circumstances, it will remove other cards or remove Divine Epiphany cards from your deck so you can keep this in. How it determines what order it's doing that in and what it wants to do, I don't know. All I know is that those are the options that it seems to pick, and none of those things you want to happen. You want as much consistency when you're coming in to save your save data build as possible, right? The game's going to mess with it at some point if you're over the cap, but what you want to do is at least be thinking about and feeling out. You have to use some ESPN, right? How close to the cap can you get? And one of the easiest ways to do that without going way overboard is to just avoid neutral cards whatsoever in your builds and in your decks. Even if they're ball or monster cards, it's going to really hurt you at the end of the day unless you're running some like very, very, very high save data, like chaos 10s, right? So avoid that stuff. If you guys do that and you focus on removing cards from the deck as you're going through your builds, focus on duplicating cards, even if they're Divine Blessing cards, and then try to make it so you don't go overboard on gearing out characters, that's going to help you a ton. And I think one of the best takeaways too, and I'm surprised that this one actually saved, that I'm starting to do now, is I took this character into like a pretty low level run, and this one was kind of bugged, I feel. But one of the best things I think you can do for a supportive type character, if you're running someone like Ray or Mika or Nia or any of these characters who don't really do a lot of damage, and the build you're trying to get for them is just like a pure support build where they spam out a lot of stuff, don't worry about their equipment. A lot of the times, don't even give them a weapon. Don't let the weapon value have any value in your terabyte data for right now. That would be my best advice, because it seems to help you go maybe a little bit under a threshold that you might hit. Is it a possibility that you could have just slammed like a big legendary weapon into this Nia build and it would have been fine anyway? That's a possibility. I'm not sure. They are changing it, so we should have more transparency about exactly how the system works in the next patch or so. Hopefully during season 1, we'll be seeing that live stream in a few days. But for right now, if you're just trying to aim for a little bit more consistency in your build, this is literally like a couple of traps that I would try to avoid. With that being said, hopefully this helped you guys out. If you want to see more stuff, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.